everybody, welcome back to Three Sisters Homestead. In this video we're going to be preserving peppers. We're going to be making two different recipes today. We are going to be using our Sugar Rush peach peppers to make a hot sauce, and then we're going to be using our jalapeños to make cowboy candy. We are going to be wearing gloves. These peppers are hot, so we don't want to be getting these on our fingers and then touching our face with something. But we're gonna go ahead and get these cut up. The cowboy candy recipe calls for 3 pounds of jalapeños. We have 2 pounds of jalapeños, but since this is our last batch of cowboy candy that we're gonna be making this year, we figured it'd be okay. We're gonna go off of the recipe that calls for 3. And we're just going to keep all of that juice for a nice marinade, and we're going to can that along with the cowboy candy. We are going to make the hot sauce first. Our peppers, and they're chopped up. I am basing this recipe off of Becky from Acre Homestead. She posted a video, I think it was yesterday. I've been waiting for her to post her recipe for this before I made it. But she did like a whole pot worth of peppers, peaches, and onions. We're not doing that big of a batch because we already have a couple other hot sauces made, but she had onions, peaches, and peppers. So I chopped up 1 onion, and I'm going to put that in there with our peppers. I'm going to go ahead and put, this was about a peach and a half worth of sliced peaches. And then she did 6 cups of vinegar. So I cut that in about 1/3, and we're only going to put 2 cups since this is a lot smaller of a batch. And then she put 3/4 cup of sugar. So I'm only going to put about 1/4 cup of sugar in there. And we're going to mix this up. And we're gonna let this sit here and boil and get everything in here nice and soft. And then we're going to blend it with the immersion blender. I'm just putting these in here to get them nice and hot. That way they're hot and ready when our hot sauce is ready. It is boiling and everything is softened up. So we're gonna go ahead and turn that off. And we're gonna bring it over here and immersion blend it. This is my immersion blender. I feel like this has been really handy for our canning, and this has made it so much faster and a lot easier to clean up too than a stand blender. And I'm just gonna tilt it since there's not that much in there. The only bad thing about this is you can see it kind of gets stuck in those holes, but it's easy enough to get out. Now that looks pretty frothy because I did use the higher setting, the higher speed. We'll get this in some jars. Okay, so I am actually going to taste this and see if I think that it needs any more sugar or anything. I'm just going to use a tortilla chip because I don't know what else to taste it on. I don't think that needs anything. It's actually really good. It's not too hot. It is pretty sweet. But I don't know what we're going to use this on, but this is pretty good. Alright, so we are going to take our jars out of the water bath canner. These have been in there to heat up and sterilize. So we got those out nice and hot. And I'm going to move these closer so I don't have to move the pot. Perfect. Maybe a little bit into the other one. We're just going to use this, get all of the bubbles out. We did leave the seeds in. If you don't want it to be super hot, you can take the seeds out. All right, just get a rag. I'm gonna wipe off the edge. That way you get a nice good seal, because this is pretty sugary. We don't want it to not seal properly. Have our lids back here heating up in some hot water. Place those right on top. And make sure that's on there evenly. And put these on just fingertip tight. We are just going to take these and put them in the water back in. We're going to wait until this comes up to a full rolling boil, and then we're going to start the timer for 20 minutes. This is back up to a full rolling boil, so we are going to go ahead and start our timer for 20 minutes. Alright, while our Kenner is going with our Sugar Rush peach hot sauce in there, we are going to go ahead and start our Cowboy candy. So the recipe calls for 2 cups of apple cider vinegar. So we're going to pour in our 2 cups of apple cider vinegar, and then 6 cups of sugar. So there's 1 cup, and then this is a 4-cup measuring cup, but I went ahead and poured another cup on top of it. So that's 5, 6. Mix that in. Set that back down, and I'm going to turn this on a little less than medium heat. That way it doesn't burn the sugar. So we need 3 teaspoons of garlic. 1, 2, 3. And the recipe, where I got this recipe from is Welcome Grove Homestead. And then 1 teaspoon of cayenne, and half a teaspoon of turmeric, and then half a teaspoon of celery seed. Okay, and we're just going to mix all this in, and we're going to keep mixing this as it starts to come up to a boil. That way the sugar isn't sticking and burning. And then once this is boiling, we will add our jalapeños. Okay, so the timer went off on this. We're going to take the lid off and set it for 5 minutes. And then we will take them out. Okay, so I go ahead and I go around and scrape the sides. That way none of the seasonings and none of the sugar is getting stuck on the side. But this is still a little gritty. I can tell when I run my spatula on the bottom and along the side. So this has still got a little ways to go to be dissolved, and then once it comes up to boiling, we will come back to you. Alright, these are done. So we're going to go ahead and lift these out. And put them over here on a towel. You don't want to set these directly on the counter, because you can risk cracking your jar because it's boiling hot. You don't want to put it on a cold counter. Alright, so now we are going to heat up and sterilize our jars for the jalapeno candy. And with this recipe, you don't have to use jalapenos. You can use any pepper you'd like. My sister, Amanda, she did do this with banana peppers, and she said it turned out pretty good. And we also made it with Sugar Rush peach peppers. We haven't tried that one yet, but you can also make this with like jalapenos if you have somebody in your family that doesn't like heat at all. You can just use those jalapeno peppers. Alright, so this is boiling now. I'm going to give it one more stir. Make sure everything's scraped off the sides. Don't splash it on yourself because that's hot. now we are going to add the jalapenos. And you don't want to breathe in this steam. If you have asthma, you want to be extra careful because this is going to be very spicy steam that comes off of this. Mix them all in and make sure that they all get a good coating of that juice. Now we're just going to let this sit here for about, yep, see, don't breathe that in. We're going to let these sit here for about 2 or 3 minutes, just until the peppers are tender. Okay, we're going to throw all of our lids in this water and get that boiling. That just heats up the seal, that way it seals properly. And then we're going to take our jars out. This has been boiling for probably about 10 or 15 minutes. And you can see that this is starting to boil. Or maybe you can. I don't know if you guys can see the bubbles. But this is starting to boil, and that's where we want it. So we're going to turn this off after we stir it, because you don't want these to shrink down too much. And we are going to fill our jars. We're going to take the peppers and put them in there, and then we're going to put enough liquid to cover the peppers. And we're going to leave, what was it, 1/2 inch headspace? Or was it 1/4? I think it was a 1/4. And then with these, we do try to pack as many in there as we can, because we do go through this pretty quick. And you can see there are still peppers in here, but that's not going to be enough for another jar. So I think I'm just going to leave those in there for the marinade. Go ahead and get the juice and pour it in there. To debubble. And then after you let the bubbles out, and see like this, that the liquid in this jar did go down, so we're going to have to put a little bit more juice in there. And then the rest of this juice I'm just going to put into jars. I am going to let there be a couple peppers in there, because we are just going to use this as a marinade. There is some left in here, but that's not enough to do another jar, so I'm just going to pour that out. And we're just cleaning these off, because this is a lot of sugar in this recipe, and we want these to get a good seal. Again, these are just going to be fingertip tight. And then we are just going to lower these into the water bath. You want your water to be about an inch and a half above your jars. Okay, and we're going to let this come to a full rolling boil, and then we'll set our timer. Okay, so this is back up to a full boil. So we are going to set this for 15 minutes. Okay, timer's going off. Just going to turn that off. Back on for 5. And leave this open. And this is all we're canning today, so I'm going to turn that off. And we'll be back. Alright, our timer went off for 5 minutes. Leave it sit in there. Take all these out and set them over here. Oh well, did you hear it pop as soon as I took it out? Alright, that is the last jar for the day. So, we got 2 pints of our Sugar Rush Peach hot sauce, 2 pints of the jalapeno marinade, I guess we're gonna call it. It's a Cowboy candy juice that came off of these, and then 3 half pints of the Cowboy candy. And that is it for this video. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.